Hey there, coffee lovers. Logan here, professional barista for majestycoffee.com, and today we're going over 5 tips for steaming alternative milks for latte art. So let's get started. Alright, so let's get into it. The 5 quick tips we're going to go over for steaming alternative milks for latte art are the viscosity of your milk, the amount of aeration, the temperature you're steaming to, your flow rate while pouring, and the actual design you're choosing to make. Starting with the viscosity of your milk. This is an important one because if you're going with something like an almond milk, it might be a little more on the watery side versus an oat milk, which might be a little bit thicker and steaming more sort of like a regular milk. Specifically, we recommend using a barista brand because they will add in extra proteins, sugars, and fats to help you actually create the latte art. So depending on the viscosity of your milk will lead into our next point of how long you want to be aerating that. If it's thinner, you may want to aerate on the longer side, and if it's a thicker milk, you may want to aerate less. Our next tip is about temperature. One being that you want to store your alternative milks in a fridge at all times to ensure they stay cold. This will help give you more time to actually steam that milk and create a really nice consistency. Our other point being you don't want to steam too hot because then you'll be creating extra tiny bubbles that will be really hard to eliminate after steaming. Our next tip is about your flow rate. Specifically with alternative milks, I find it's best to pour very slowly. So start and create your base just as normal, but then when you're going in for that design, slow it down a lot and then get in very close to your vessel. Leading into our last point, which is going to be the actual design you're choosing to make. I find it tends to be hard to make rosettas with almond milks, but a little bit easier with using an oat milk instead. With all alternative milks, it tends to be a little bit easier to go for a more rounded design like a heart or a tulip. So let's show you those different milks in action and show you how they work while pouring. Alright, so beginning with our soy milk here, I find that this one has more of a viscosity closer to almost a whole milk. Both soy and oat are a bit on the thicker side, so really we don't need to aerate this for too long. And once again, I am starting cold, which will give me more time to actually steam the milk and get the consistency I want. Completely submerge. And remembering not to steam too hot or we won't be able to eliminate those bubbles after steaming. Alright, so with this soy, let's try to make a rosetta, starting quickly, dipping in very close, and making our design, and pulling through. And it's not perfect, but there it is. As mentioned earlier, the bubbles up top that are appearing are a little harder to eliminate and happen when you over steam or overheat your milk. Alright, so now let's steam this oat milk, which steams more like regular milk. Really just a small amount of aeration, and remembering not too hot. When we're pouring, we want to remember to keep our flow rate very consistent, starting out quickly, creating a nice base, but then really slowing it down, and sometimes I'll even just stop and then start creating the base. Pulling through as so. So you'll notice how I really slowed it down at the end, and that's just because with the alternative milks it tends to be a little more liquidy, and if you slow down your flow rate, it's a lot easier to control your design. And now I'll show you steaming almond milk. With almond milk, I think it's a little more viscous, so it's pretty important to get the correct amount of aeration as early on as possible. And then also the design that you actually end up choosing. Depending on your almond milk, I just really think it's easiest to choose more of a rounded design, which is why I go for hearts or tulips when pouring with almond milk. And being careful not to over steam so that we can eliminate our bubbles. Also, just the general taste and flavor of the milk when combined with coffee, I believe is better when it's not too hot. So there we go, we got a really nice consistency there. With this one, really controlling that flow rate is important as it's already just showing how viscous it is. So we really want to dip in there. And create that design. So I hope I've helped you learn something new about steaming alternative milks for latte art. Whether you're a business owner trying to wow your customers or a home user trying to take your espresso to the next level, our Latte Art Mastery course was designed specifically with you in mind. We guarantee it will improve your latte art within 30 days or it's totally free. Check it out on majestycoffee.com/latte. Thanks for joining and we'll see ya in class.